My name's Alan and I'm going to be working today on a VW Golf, or Rabbit if you're in America, 2009 Mark 6. No air conditioning. Carried out a diagnosis of the aircon using a set of gauges. Static pressure were both at 70 psi, ambient temperature about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, so all was good. I knew I had gas, and as I've had the car for about 6 months, I knew there was no leaks. So the problem was something else. I ran the car up, activate the aircon, no change in the dials. No change in the dials at all, no pressure from the compressor. So knew had no movement in the dials at all, so I knew the compressor wasn't working. So further investigation, I had a look down into the engine bay to look at the compressor. I could see immediately that the centre bolt that holds or retains the drive clutch in the pulley was sticking out. Thought, winner, I'll try and tighten it up. Tried to tighten it up, just turns, doesn't tighten. So I thought, well, don't know what the problem is here. A little bit of investigation on YouTube, and lo and behold, clutch failure. The splines in the centre tear apart. A common fault apparently. Spoke to VW, they say it's just a straight change of compressor, they don't mess about with replacing the parts. eBay, 15 quid, 4 or 5 days over from somewhere in the UK, but originally from China. Got the part, about to do a strip down, stick it on and show you how it's done and see if we cure the problem. So I'm going to try and show you here where the thread is protruding from the bolt holding the pulley. It's on the right hand side of the engine as you look down from the front. If you look between the wheel arch and the face of the engine, the pulley closest to the front of the car. At the very bottom, if you look down here to left of the hose, you can see the bolt. It's the silver one in the centre there. It's on the face of the clutch. And as I zoom in and try and get, you'll have to excuse the image, it's difficult to see, but if I zoom in, you should see the thread exposed from the faceplate sticking out. That's what I thought was initially the problem. Tried to tighten it up, but because the thread is thread locked into the compressor shaft itself, as you turn that bolt, you just turn the compressor, you rotate the compressor, and it doesn't actually tighten, and it gives you a problem trying to loosen it, as you'll see later on in the video. So access is via the inner wheel arch. So you jack your car up on a jack, axle stands, remove the road wheel, then unscrew the T20 torque screws that hold the inner wheel arch lining. You don't have to take it all the way out. You can split it up to the centre bolt here, level with a shock absorber, and once that one's done and all the ones forward of that are loose, you can bend the top half of the wheel arch back and hook it behind your brake disc just to get it out of the way, like so. Then you need to remove the lower front pan. There's 2 screws inside the inner bumper here, down at the bottom. You need to remove those 2 screws, then move to underneath the car, and there's 4 screws on the engine guard shield that you need to remove. 1, 2, 4. And then along with those there's a couple of bolts at the front connecting to the bottom underside of the bumper. This one's particularly awkward to spot, you have to get right under to see it. It's right at the front corner of the bumper, tucked away. But once you spot that, you get that one undone. Once it's out, and then slide that inner bottom wing out of the way completely, and this gives you access to the pulley. Now this is the difficult bit. I started off trying to undo the bolt, but it just rotates in the shaft of the compressor. That's good news, because at least I knew that the compressor wasn't seized, but I had to work out a way of chocking it out. Initially I was hoping that it wouldn't be too rigid. I didn't realise that the thread lock was on there, so I thought I'd try full-heartedly a little plastic trim tool, put a little bit of pressure on the bolt head to try and lever it out. That was my first idea. That was unsuccessful. Thought I'd maybe try a little screwdriver. Same kind of idea, but again wasn't getting enough force to lock on it, and it just kept turning. Up the ante, bigger screwdriver again. I know I'm showing you stuff that isn't successful, but if you're tackling this job, you might have these ideas yourself, and I'm just showing you all the things not to try, because they certainly didn't work for me. But you can see what I went through just trying to work out what the best plan of action was. Different chain of thought. I thought I'd remove the 3 clutch spring screws, and maybe I could then use the entire clutch as some kind of locking mechanism. Get me out. These are tensile screws that are also thread locked in, but they come out easy enough. Keep hold of these, because as you'll see later, the screws that are supplied with the new clutch from China via Birmingham, they've got the tensile strength of a banana, so you won't want to be putting them in. They just flip and flap and round about, so I use the old ones. Anyway, I tried just an angle lever initially with a large screwdriver to try and force against the shaft. I did start to feel a little bit of resistance doing this, so I knew I was on the right track, but still no joy. You can't get to the shaft through the clutch, there's just no access room. So I persevered like this for a while, and then up the ante with a screwdriver and tried to kind of cross lock. You can see I'm trying to lock the plate of the clutch now against the pulley. Like I say, you can fast forward through these bits. These are just the fool's errand I followed in an attempt to try and get this bolt undone. You can see now I'm starting to get some resistance, so I know this idea is what I need to be doing, but it's still just not quite enough. Unfortunately, it's also a bit of a three-handed job, to be honest. And you'll see why in a minute, because the answer comes to me eventually, what I need to do. What I could see was I was getting rotation as well as movement. So if you look here, I've got a screwdriver in to stop the rotation and one to use as force against the face of the clutch plate. So one in as a wedge and one to lever, so it doesn't rotate and it doesn't lever. And this gave me just what I needed to undo it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about this, but my arm got in the way of the camera. I was so excited that I'd finally got the screw turning, but there it was out. So it was one wedged into a clutch plate arm and one against between the pulley and the plate end, forcing sideways was enough to give me a lock on the shaft with what's left of this pulley. And you'll see when it comes off why it was difficult to get a lock on the spline. The spline itself is fine. You'll see there it's in good order, and you can see it's all clean and smart. There's no problems there. There's a lot of debris in the hole. I'll clear that out later, but that's from the alloy on the pulley itself. That's it. You can see here the inside of the clutch that it's a sacrificial part. It's an alloy. It's a light alloy, and it's just lost all of its splines, and it's rotated and damaged itself slightly. I'm lucky it didn't damage completely the case under the compressor and cause a leak, because it was heading that way, but caught it in time, which is a result. It's a good time just to check. I knew my shaft was turning, but for peace of mind, make sure the compressor is turning. I could feel resistance turning this, but was able to do it by hand. You can see the shaft is rotating freely. But that's good news. We know that's still all connected to the pump. So I used some brake and clutch cleaner in here because it will dissolve and not leave any fluid. Just to blast it a bit, and then a screwdriver and a rag just to clear out the debris that's in there from the damage on the inside of the pulley. There's a circular pin here that you're cleaning around that retains the pulley. And here's the new kit from China. 3 bolts. Like I say, the 3 spring bolts are useless, so keep the old ones. But you can see the spline is solid there. There's the old one, completely gone, and the new one solid and with all of its teeth in place. That slides back on. You don't need a lot of force, it just drops in. And once that's on, you can rotate and line up your 3 holes on your clutch springs. When you put the screws in, make sure to put some thread lock on, because you don't want these undoing again, particularly on the centre bolt. And like I say, I tightened these up, and I wasn't comfortable with the elasticity in the bolt, let's say, and the softness of the head. I envisaged, get these rusty in a year's time, you're never going to get them out. So I changed tack, got the old tensile bolts, because these ones hadn't loosened, so they were still in good order. Got the original tensile bolts back in with some thread lock, and reverted back to those in the end. These are all T25, these bolts. And then finally the centre bolt with plenty of thread lock. This is the one that fails, so it's really important to get this one locked down nice and tight. My other one had worn out, it had some damage, the points of the threads had flattened slightly, so I had no choice but to use the one that came with the kit. But in all fairness, that did seem to be of a reasonable quality, tightened up, and it was a torque rather than the Allen heads of the others that they'd supplied, so better grip and more chance of it doing the job. Nice and tight. I don't know what the torque settings are because VW don't have this as a exchangeable part. They just want you to have a whole compressor. Yep, it's a success. I've got cold air again. I haven't got any gauges to show you the temperature. You'll have to take my word for it, which I know it was a punt. It was 15 quid and it's solved the problem. We'll have to now monitor to make sure that now there's actually compressed fluid going around the aircon, that there aren't any leaks, because it's obviously been static. But at the end of the day, if it holds 70 psi, I can't see why it wouldn't hold the 150, but time will tell. But as it stands, it's running and it's cold at last for the 2 days in the UK where we have some heat. I hope that's been of help to you, and showed you how to battle it, and there's a potentially easy fix there. Thanks for watching. Cheers.